It's going to be the perfect wedding venue, don't you think? My sister Amanda's voice echoed through the marble foyer of my newly built villa. I stood frozen, keys still in my hand, staring at her and the wedding planner, who were discussing flower arrangements in my home, the day before my housewarming party. My name is Olivia Barrett, and at 35, I had finally built my dream home, a luxury villa overlooking the city's most exclusive neighborhood. After 15 years of working my way up in real estate development, living in tiny apartments, and saving every penny, I had created something magnificent. Every detail, from the curved staircase to the infinity pool, had been personally overseen by me. This was supposed to be my moment. Amanda, what are you doing here? I managed to keep my voice steady, though my hands were shaking. The housewarming isn't until tomorrow. She turned to me with that familiar condescending smile, the one she perfected since childhood. Olive, didn't Mom and Dad tell you? They're giving me the villa as my wedding gift. It's perfect for starting a family, don't you think? The room started spinning. What are you talking about? This is my house. I built it. Well, technically, Amanda drawled, Dad helped with the permits and some connections, so really, it's a family project. And since I'm getting married next month, they decided I needed it more than you do. You're still single after all. Before I could respond, my parents walked in through the open door. My mother was already directing the wedding planner on where to put the altar, while my father avoided my gaze. Mom, Dad, what is this? I demanded. Sweetheart, my mother started, using her placating tone that always preceded bad news. We thought it would be best this way. Amanda and James need somewhere to start their life together, and you're always so busy with work. You barely need more than your apartment. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I blew out this house. Every penny came from my savings. I designed it. I worked with the contractors. Now Olivia, my father finally spoke, his voice firm. Don't be selfish. Your sister is getting married. This is about family. Family. The word hit me like a slap. For years, I'd watched as Amanda got everything she wanted. The best schools, the fanciest cars, the most expensive weddings. Yes, this was her second. Meanwhile, I worked hard, stayed focused, and built my career from nothing. And now they expected me to hand over my dream home just because she wanted it. Get out, I said quietly. Don't be dramatic, Amanda sighed. The wedding's in 4 weeks. We need to start decorating. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I knew by heart. Hello, Marcus? Yes, it's Olivia Barrett. I need you to send over all the construction receipts, contracts, and payment records for the villa project. Everything. Yes, right now. My father's face darkened. Olivia, what are you doing? Protecting what's mine, I replied, my voice ice cold. You see, unlike Amanda's first wedding venue that you paid for, or her failed business that you funded, or her luxury car that you bought, I pay for every brick, every tile, every fixture in this house. And I have proof. Amanda's smug smile faltered slightly. Daddy, tell her to stop being difficult. My phone pinged with incoming emails. Here we go, I said, opening the files. Full payment records, all from my personal accounts. Construction contracts, all in my name. Property deed, also in my name. And look, dated video logs of every site meeting I had with the contractors. Would you like to see yourself not being there for any of them, Amanda? The wedding planner, sensing the tension, quietly excused herself. My mother started to say something, but I held up my hand. I spent my entire life watching you give Amanda everything while I worked for scraps of approval. But this is too far. This house is mine. I earned it, and if any of you try to take it from me, I'll show everyone exactly how I built it alone. You ungrateful child, my mother gasped. After everything we've done for you. Done for me? I laughed bitterly. Let's talk about what you've done for me. When I got into business school, you said you couldn't help with tuition because you were paying for Amanda's third gap year in Europe. When I started my first job, you told everyone it was just a phase until I found a husband. When I made junior partner, you missed the celebration because Amanda needed help picking out yak decor. My father stepped forward, his face red. Now listen here. No, you listen. I cut him off. Those permits you claim you helped with, I have the paperwork showing I obtained them through proper channels. Those connections you mentioned, every contractor was hired through my company with documented bids. I made sure everything was by the book because I knew, somehow, you tried to take credit for my success. Amanda's face had lost its superior expression, replaced by something closer to panic. But Dad promised. Dad had nothing to promise, I said firmly. This property is legally mine. I have security cameras being installed tomorrow. You have exactly 2 minutes to leave before I call the police and report you for trespassing. My mother burst into tears, her usual tactic when things didn't go her way. My father looked like he might explode. But Amanda, dear Amanda, tried one last time. You can't do this to me, she whined. What about my perfect wedding? What about my guests? What will people say? I walked to the door and held it open. They'll say you tried to steal your sister's house and failed. 1 minute left. They filed out, my mother still sobbing, my father silent, and Amanda shooting me a look of pure venom. As they reached their cars, I called out, "Oh, and Amanda, consider this karma for trying to steal my college boyfriend too. At least this time you failed." The door closed with a satisfying click, and I leaned against it, finally letting out the breath I'd been holding. My hands were shaking as I pulled out my phone again. Marcus? Yes, I need one more thing. How quickly can we get the locks changed? That evening, as I sat in my new kitchen, the texts started rolling in. Flying monkeys, right on schedule. From Mom, how could you do this to your sister? Her wedding is ruined. From Dad, we raised you better than this. From various relatives, family should come first. Why are you being so selfish? Just let her have her perfect day. I ignored them all and opened my laptop instead. Years of working in real estate had taught me to document everything, and now that instinct was paying off. I had spreadsheets tracking every payment, videos of every construction meeting, and most importantly, a paper trail proving that my parents had no financial involvement whatsoever. My phone rang. Amanda again. Against my better judgment, I answered. What part of no was unclear? You think you're so clever, she hissed. But you're just jealous. Jealous that I'm getting married again while you're still alone. Jealous that Mom and Dad love me more. Jealous that. Jealous? I cut her off with a laugh. Amanda, I'm not jealous. I'm successful. I built this house with my own money, run my own company, and don't need Mommy and Daddy's approval to validate my existence. But please tell me more about how I should be jealous of your second marriage to a man you met 3 months ago. She gasped. How dare you? James and I are in love. Just like you and Richard were in love before you cheated on him with his best friend? Or wait, was that your first fiancé, Tom? You bitter, lonely. Goodbye, Amanda. Don't forget to return the wedding planner's deposit. I hear they're strict about refunds. I hung up and blocked her number. Then I blocked my parents' numbers too, for good measure. The flying monkeys could wait. I had a housewarming party to prepare for. The next morning, I woke up in my new master bedroom to the sound of the security company arriving to install the cameras. As I watched them work, my phone buzzed with an email from Marcus, my lawyer. Olivia, I filed a restraining order against your family members based on their attempts to claim ownership of your property. Also, I took the liberty of sending them formal documentation of your sole ownership, including payment records and contracts. They won't have a legal leg to stand on if they try anything. Best, Marcus. I smiled, feeling more secure already. But I knew my family, they wouldn't give up easily. Amanda had always gotten what she wanted, one way or another, and my parents had enabled her entitlement for years. The security company finished their installation by noon, just as the caterers arrived to set up for the housewarming. I had invited colleagues, friends, and clients, people who had watched me work for this, who knew exactly whose success they were celebrating. As I got dressed for the party, I caught my reflection in the massive bathroom mirror. I looked different, stronger somehow. For years, I had tried to maintain peace in the family by giving in to Amanda's demands, by accepting my parents' favoritism. But standing up to them, protecting what was mine, it felt like finally becoming who I was meant to be. The doorbell rang at 6 p.m. sharp, right on schedule. But instead of my first party guests, I found Amanda standing there in tears, James hovering uncertainly behind her. Please, she sobbed, you have to help me. Everyone's already been invited. I'll be humiliated if we have to change venues now. I'll let you be my maid of honor. I almost laughed at the absurdity of her offer, as if being in her wedding party was some great honor I should be grateful for. Amanda, I said calmly, you have 5 seconds to leave my property before the cameras record you trespassing. Again. But. 4. You can't. 3. James tugged at her arm. Babe, let's go. We'll figure something else out. 2. They retreated to their car just as my first real guests arrived, my closest friend, Sarah, who had watched me sketch the initial designs for this house years ago on a coffee shop napkin. Was that Amanda I just saw? She asked, raising an eyebrow. Just another attempted theft, I shrugged. But this time, I was prepared. The party was everything I had dreamed of. My home filled with people who genuinely celebrated my success, who knew the work I put in to get here. As I gave tours of the house, I shared stories about the construction process, the design choices, the countless hours spent making every detail perfect. Around midnight, as the last guests were leaving, Sarah pulled me aside. Your mom called me earlier, she said. Tried to guilt me into talking sense into you. Said you were breaking up the family. I took a sip of champagne. And what did you tell her? I told her that she and Amanda broke up the family years ago by treating you like an ATM with legs. Then I blocked her number. I hugged her tightly. This is my family now, I said. The people who actually care about me. That night, after everyone had gone home, I walked through my villa alone. My heels clicked on the marble floors I had selected. My hands traced the custom woodwork I had commissioned. My eyes took in the city lights through the windows I had positioned just so. My phone buzzed one last time, an email from my father. Your mother is devastated. Amanda's wedding is in shambles. If you ever want to be part of this family again, he'll apologize and make this right. I hit reply. I am part of a family, one that respects me, celebrates my success, and doesn't try to steal what I've earned. If you ever want to be part of that family, you'll need to apologize and make this right. But I won't hold my breath. Olivia. I turned off my phone, poured myself one last glass of champagne, and walked out onto my terrace. The city sparkled below, and for the first time in years, I felt truly at home. This was my house, my success, my life, and no one could take that from me again. But something told me this wasn't over. Amanda had never taken no for an answer, and my parents had never stopped enabling her. The question was, what would they try next? 3 days after my housewarming party, I received an unexpected visit at my office. Sarah, my assistant, buzzed through on the intercom. Olivia, your sister's fiancé James is here. He says it's urgent. I considered turning him away, but curiosity got the better of me. Send him in. James entered, looking uncomfortable in his expensive suit, probably another gift from my parents. He clutched a folder like a shield in front of him. Olivia, I know I'm the last person you want to see, but there's something you need to know, he said, placing the folder on my desk. Amanda's been lying to everyone, including me. I opened the folder and felt my blood run cold. Inside were bank statements, loan applications, and credit card bills, all showing massive debt. Amanda had apparently been living far beyond her means, using my parents' names and credit to fund her lifestyle. She told me your parents were wealthy real estate developers. James continued, his voice tight. Said this house was just one of many properties they owned. I had no idea it was yours, built with your own money, when I confronted her about it. Let me guess. I interrupted. She threw a tantrum and blamed everyone else. He nodded. She's been pressuring me to sign a prenup that would give her full rights to any property we live in. Now I understand why. I leaned back in my chair, the pieces clicking into place. She wanted to marry you quickly, move into my house, and then make sure you couldn't claim it in a divorce, just like she did with her first husband's beach house. There's more, James said, pulling out his phone. She's been telling people she's the one who designed the villa, that she hired the contractors. She's even taking potential clients on tours, claiming she's starting a luxury real estate business. He showed me social media posts, dozens of them. Amanda posing in my house and my office, claiming my work as her own. The latest post made my stomach turn. So excited to announce my new venture in luxury property development. First project, my dream villa, designed and built by me. I'm sorry, James said quietly. I've called off the engagement, but you should know, she and your parents are planning something. I overheard them talking about proving family investment in the property. I pulled out my own folder, the one containing every document, receipt, and contract related to the villa. Let them try. I've got 15 years of records showing exactly where every penny came from. After James left, I called Marcus immediately. Within an hour, he drafted cease and desist letters regarding Amanda's false claims about the property. "We need to move fast," he advised. "If she's showing the house to potential clients, she could be committing fraud." That evening, as I drove home, I noticed an unusual number of cars parked along my street. As I approached my gate, I saw lights on in my house. Lights I definitely hadn't left on. The security camera feed on my phone showed what I dreaded. Amanda was hosting another tour of my property, but this time she had really overstepped. Through the cameras, I could hear her pitch to the group of well-dressed visitors. "As you can see, this is the kind of luxury property my company specializes in," she was saying. "We're currently accepting investors for our next development project." I called the police. The scene that unfolded was both satisfying and sad. Amanda, dressed in what I recognized as a knockoff of my favorite business suit, being escorted out while trying to maintain her dignity. The potential investors discovering they'd been misled. My parents, who had apparently been waiting nearby, rushing in to defend her. "She's just ambitious," my mother cried to the officers. "She's trying to follow in her sister's footsteps." "By committing fraud?" I asked, walking up my own driveway. "By breaking and entering, by trying to scam innocent people." My father turned to me, his face red with anger. "This is your fault. If you had just given her the house like we asked, she wouldn't have had to resort to this." I looked at him incredulously. "Resort to this? She's been lying to everyone, racking up debt in your names, and now trying to scam people using my property. When are you going to stop enabling her?" The police officer cleared his throat. "Ma'am, would you like to press charges?" I looked at Amanda, mascara running down her face as she continued to protest her innocence. At my parents, still trying to defend her actions. At the scattered business cards on my driveway, printed with her fake company name and my home address. "Yes," I said firmly. "Yes, I would." "You wouldn't dare," Amanda shrieked. "I'm your sister." "No," I replied calmly. "You're a woman who tried to steal my home, my work, and my reputation. Being family doesn't give you the right to destroy what I've built." As the officers led her to the patrol car, my mother made one last attempt. "Please, Olivia, think about what this will do to our family name." "I am thinking about it," I said. "I'm thinking about how you've let Amanda tarnish it for years while I work to build something real. I'm thinking about how you've chosen her lies over my truth every single time. And I'm thinking it's time for that to stop." Later that night, alone in my study, I received a call from an unknown number. It was Richard, Amanda's first husband. "I saw what happened on the local news," he said. "I should have warned you. She did the same thing to me, tried to claim my beach house as her investment property after the divorce. Your parents helped her then too." "Why are you telling me this now?" I asked. "Because I wish someone had told me to stand my ground. Don't back down, Olivia. Don't let them guilt you into dropping the charges. She needs to face consequences for once in her life." As I hung up, my phone buzzed with a text from James. "Thank you for showing me the truth before it was too late." I walked through my quiet house, touching the walls I'd dreamed of for so long. Each room represented years of hard work, determination, and sacrifice. I wouldn't let anyone take that from me, not even family, especially not family. The next morning, my lawyer called with news that would change everything. The police investigation into Amanda's fraudulent business activities had uncovered something much bigger than we expected. "Your sister hasn't just been impersonating you," Detective Morris said, spreading documents across my kitchen island. "She's been running a full-scale property investment scam using your reputation and credentials." I stared at the evidence before me, fake business cards with my license numbers, doctored photos of my previous development projects, and bank statements showing hundreds of thousands in investment deposits from unsuspecting victims. "How long?" I asked, my voice barely steady. "At least 8 months. She's been collecting down payments for luxury properties she claimed were upcoming projects, all using your professional history as credibility." My parents sat on the other side of the island, their faces ashen. They'd been called in for questioning, and the detective had insisted I be present. Now I understood why. "Mr. and Mrs. Barrett," Detective Morris continued, "your signatures appear on several of these investment documents. Care to explain?" My father's hands trembled as he adjusted his glasses. We thought we were helping her start a legitimate business. She said Olivia had agreed to mentor her." By forging my credentials? I interrupted. By stealing my project portfolio. We didn't know, my mother protested weakly. She said you two had worked everything out after that little disagreement about the house. I laughed bitterly. That little disagreement was her trying to steal my home. And you believed I'd just forgive and forget. Detective Morris cleared his throat. There's more. Ms. Barrett, Olivia, your sister has been using your social security number and business credentials to secure loans. Significant loans. My heart stopped. How much? Just over $2 million. The room spun. My mother burst into tears, but for once, I felt no sympathy. This wasn't just sibling rivalry or family drama anymore. This was calculated fraud that could destroy everything I'd worked for. We can press charges, Detective Morris said gently. Given the evidence, she's looking at serious prison time. You can't. My mother wailed. She's pregnant. The silence that followed was deafening. What? I finally managed. She found out last week, my father said quietly. That's why we've been trying so hard to help her get established. She's going to be a single mother now that James left. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. So that makes it okay? She commits fraud, steals my identity, and potentially ruins my reputation. But it's all fine because she's pregnant. She's your sister, my mother pleaded. No, I said firmly. She's a criminal who happens to share my DNA. And for once in her life, she's going to face consequences. I turned to Detective Morris. I want to press all possible charges, and I want my parents investigated as potential accomplices. Olivia. My father stood up, his face red. You would send your own parents to jail. You signed fraudulent documents, I said calmly. You helped her scam innocent people. If you're innocent, the investigation will prove it. If not, well, maybe it's time you face consequences too. After they left with Detective Morris, I sat alone in my kitchen, the magnitude of everything hitting me at once. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. Just heard. You okay? I stared at the message for a long moment before replying. No, but I will be. The next morning, my lawyer Marcus called with an update that made my blood run cold. The banks were freezing my business accounts pending investigation. It's temporary, he assured me. We have documentation proving the fraud, but Amanda's actions have triggered automatic fraud protocols. We need to act fast to protect your assets and reputation. I spent the next 3 days in endless meetings with banks, investigators, and my company's board. Amanda's scam had been more sophisticated than anyone realized. She hadn't just stolen my identity. She created an entire fake business history intertwined with my real one. The good news, Marcus said during our latest meeting, is that we can prove every legitimate project was yours. The bad news? Unraveling all this is going to take time. Time. The one thing I couldn't afford to lose. I had real projects in development, real clients counting on me. Then came the letter from my mother. Dearest Olivia, Amanda tried to end things last night. She's in the hospital now. The baby is fine, but the doctors say the stress is dangerous for both of them. Please, if you ever loved your sister, drop the charges. We can find another way. Mom. I read the letter 3 times before calling the hospital. As I suspected, there had been no suicide attempt, just another manipulation tactic. That evening, as I sat on my terrace watching the sunset, I made a decision. I'd spent my entire life trying to prove myself while Amanda took shortcuts and blamed others for her failures. Not anymore. I called Detective Morris. I want to make a statement, I said firmly, about everything, and I want it on record. It was time to tell the whole truth, no matter who it hurt. 6 months later, I sat in the courtroom as the judge delivered Amanda's sentence, 10 years for fraud, identity theft, and financial crimes. My parents, who had taken a plea deal for their role as accomplices, received probation and hefty fines. Amanda didn't look at me once during the sentencing. Her baby bump was visible now, though the prison jumpsuit did its best to hide it. My mother's tears echoed through the courtroom, but they no longer moved me. I'd grown immune to their emotional manipulation. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited with cameras and microphones. Ms. Barrett, how do you feel about your sister's sentence? I faced them calmly, my voice steady. This isn't about family drama. This is about fraud, theft, and accountability. My sister didn't just steal my identity. She stole from innocent people who trusted her with their investments. That trust was misplaced, and now justice has been served. The headlines the next day were predictable. Real estate developer's sister sentenced in $1 million fraud scheme. But what the papers didn't report was how the experience had changed me. My company had not only survived but thrived. The publicity from Amanda's case brought attention to my legitimate projects. Clients appreciated my transparency throughout the ordeal, and my reputation for integrity only grew stronger. The villa, my beautiful home that had started it all, became a symbol of resilience. I hosted charity events there, supporting organizations that helped victims of financial fraud. The irony wasn't lost on me. One evening, as I sat by my infinity pool watching the sunset, my phone rang. It was my father. "Olivia," his voice was hesitant, "your mother and I, we've been doing a lot of thinking. The counseling from our probation program, it's opened our eyes." I remained silent, letting him continue. "We failed you, not just with Amanda's crimes, but your whole life. We enabled her, dismissed your achievements, and never gave you the recognition you deserved. I know it's too late, but I'm sorry." I watched the sky turn pink and orange over the city. "You're right, Dad. It is too late for things to go back to how they were. But maybe we can build something new, something based on truth this time." "I'd like that," he said quietly. After we hung up, I walked through my home, running my fingers along the walls I fought so hard to protect. Each room held memories now, not just of the battle to keep it, but of the strength I'd found in standing up for myself. Later that evening, Sarah came over with wine and takeout, our Friday tradition now. "Heard about the sentencing," she said, settling onto my terrace sofa. "You okay?" I smiled, really smiled. "You know what? I am. For the first time in my life, I'm not carrying the weight of their expectations or guilt. I'm just me." "To just you," she raised her glass. "The most baddest property developer in the city." We laughed, and I felt lighter than I had in years. The next morning, I received a letter from Amanda's prison. "Olivia, I'm having a girl. The doctor says she'll be here in 2 months. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know I'm getting help. Real help. Maybe one day I'll understand why I did what I did. I won't ask you to be in her life. I haven't earned that, but I hope someday she grows up to be strong like her aunt. Amanda." I folded the letter and placed it in my desk drawer. Time would tell if Amanda's change was genuine. For now, I had a new luxury development project to focus on. Life had taught me an invaluable lesson. Sometimes the family you're born into tries to tear you down, but that doesn't mean you can't rise stronger. My villa stood as a testament to that truth, not just a home anymore, but a symbol of everything I'd overcome. As I walked into my office that morning, I passed the framed front page from last year. "Local developer stands strong against family fraud." Below it, I had hung a small plaque with the words that have become my mantra: "Your success belongs to you. Never let anyone steal your light." The view from my office stretched across the city, full of possibilities. I had projects to develop, dreams to build, and a legacy to create, one that was truly my own. And this time, no one could take it from me.